So that's been the bones of what we've done, really. So let's just look at some examples. So an advisory visit is where, in this case, Gareth came out with the bowling game guys, as you can see, a few weeks ago. He walked the river with them, and he produces a report that outlines the issues that he sees. For example, very heavy grazing right to the river's edge that makes it look like a lawn. And then he talks through some recommendations of what could be done. So his report, for example, talks about the use of fencing and pasture pumps, including the Ribble solar powered affairs here. Various pointers, we can choose which ones we go for. We have, Tim's going to love seeing this, we've got another type of service, if you will, which is a project proposal. And that again would entail a conservation officer going out with the club, but the report that he produces is somewhat more detailed. And so it itemises what could be done where in or around the river. So this is one that Tim did earlier in the year in Staffordshire. That is the Endon Brook, which is looking incredibly like a ditch. And Tim's project proposal identified areas on a map where stuff could happen in the river. His proposal produces a series of cross-sections, and he demonstrates exactly where on the river some features could be put in. This can then go with the flood defence consent to the Environment Agency in England and hopefully gain consent for the club, working with us to then get on and do the work. So that's the intention. All of this work, that's not true, most of this work is funded through the Environment Agency, and we have a fantastically supportive arrangement using our ROD licence money to fund quite a lot of this work. So if you ever wonder what happens to my ROD licence money, this is it, at least in part. And then the third thing we do are these practical demonstration days. As I said earlier on, we've done 35 odd demo events over the last 12 months. And here is an example. That is what in Somerset they call a river. That is the River Avil, which drains into the Bristol Channel. It is actually, in some parts, it's a really pretty little stream. But the solution to any water problems in Somerset is to do that to your river. So our colleague Mike Blackmore, who's currently on his honeymoon, went in with a group of volunteers. We scrounged some money out of the local Environment Agency, some from the Crown Estates, to put into a project pot. And Mike went in with groups of volunteers. These are Environment Agency staff, students from Bridgewater College, just to try and make that very, very trapezoidal straight ditch into something more attractive. And that's what the stream looks like now. So that's pretty much the same beat as you saw earlier on. And lo and behold, these things have started to return. This work was done in March. Okay? So this is very, very recent shot. And also, these things have shown up in surveys. So that's quite interesting. This isn't science, this is an Environment Agency pre and post survey, electrofishing survey, from that very site that you saw. And you can see that, or maybe you can see, before the work was done, April last year, there were no brown trout found in the survey. And April of this year, 10 fish, including that little sea trout, showed up in the surveys. Now, it isn't science, but it's a nice bit of support for the work that was done. The total project pot for that work was £2,000, and Mike did about 700 metres of river, as you saw there earlier on, for £2,000, which isn't bad. Right, Paul. This is a video. It's not bad. Paul's going to make it work, aren't you?